Hi, I'm Torte de Lini. 7.39D is here after months of us starving in the desert, not to get any patch or update for the longest time. Now we get this teeny tiny patch, which I guess is going to have to be good enough to last us for a while, so I'd hope not. But in any case, if you don't remember, 7.39C was all about blade mail. All the cores were buying it. You saw Nature's Prophet as a core. You saw it as Queen of Pain with the Bondage facet. You saw it on Axe and Leech Commander, one of the best offlaners of last patch. Really helped with a lot of heroes to hasten their farm, to make ganking more secured, and lastly, more importantly, it gave you a ton of armor mid-game up until the late game that really was annoying to deal with if you were a physical dealer, physical fragile here, dealer like range carries. In any case, let's take a look at 7.39D. So, first thing to talk about is this new thing called Quartero's Curios. It's basically, if you were here from a long time ago in Dota 2, it was basically that beta box you got where every time you leveled up your actual levels in your account, you basically got free items. Well, now Quartero's Curios is, let's say, the lore version of that, where every time you play Dota 2, you get some free items. Apparently this guide is going to come out every time. They're a bit slow on, or rather, there's a bit of a delay or a bit of a gap between, let's say, the events they had intended to plan to release versus its actual release. So, for example, in this scenario, Crownfall hasn't come out. Crownfall has been done and completed for 9 months now, and yeah, we're just kind of waiting for what else they got planned. It seems to be taking a long ass time. So here's Curios to kind of satiate your or quench your thirst for free new stuff. So the first time I'm going to get here is Papa Wanga's Pop It, which is the Witch Doctor Ultimate Ward. Thanks, Curios, or Quarteros, I should say. Nice. Even voice acted him, so put some effort into this, so can't complain with it all that much. And yeah, just free stuff, so enjoy that. Okay, we talked about the meat. Let's talk about the potatoes. Blade mail. Obviously the armor portion of this ability is still relatively fine, right? No armor changes for this blade mail. However, the damage bonus, which came from the component of Broadsword, has obviously been nerfed by 3. And then the damage return passive attack, which is usually what heroes like Axe or Legion or a lot of offlaners, like even Underlord, I seldom bought it, but Central War Runner was another one. This was really what gave Blade Mail really its ultimate power, in that the damage return that was passive really helped you deal with, let's say, stacked ancient camps. It helped you deal with stacked jungle camps, and ultimately just made your farm incredibly quickly. You would get a Blink Dagger, let's say, for Axe by 16 minutes if you were really good. If you had a bad lane, maybe 18 minutes, and that meant your mid game was really strong and really hard to deal with for a lot of enemy teams. So ultimately, Blade Mail having its damage return passive attack damage return decreased from 2020 to 10-15% means that it's a pretty significant scaling nerf from all periods of the game, but obviously more importantly from the early to mid game. Okay, I want to talk about some last 2 items that really matter. Heaven's Halberd, the disarm duration from 3 to 2.5 on melee targets and 4 to 4.5 on range targets. I think people are not really understanding when you should be buying Halberd. It's very much an early game item. You get Vanguard, you pick up Halberd after. Popular on, let's say, Dark Seer, Bristleback, if you go to Goo Facet. The increase in seconds here seems like it's just slight, but in reality, it's pretty significant, especially if you're one of the early game heroes. For Goo, for Bristleback, it makes basically them being able to attack you when you're facing towards them and chasing them down. Obviously, they're unable to do that. For Dark Seer, same thing. You initiate with, let's say, Halberd, and then you can create illusions, vacuum, etc. and Iron Shell him and punch him to death with your decent attack. So Heaven's Halberd, definitely, I think, an overlooked item. Blade Mail kind of help obfuscate people's focus on the value of Heaven's Halberd, so hopefully people start picking them up. Now it's still relatively good. I think it's still good, honestly. It's supposed to be at a time where your enemies don't have Manta, they don't have Yules, they don't have BKB to kind of disarm or dispel the disarm from Heaven's Halberd. Now the second item we should talk about here is Maelstrom and Mjollnir. This deals bonus damage to illusion. This was at a time when a lot of illusion heroes were way too strong. Naga Siren, PL, even Terrorblade, but Terrorblade's not that relevant here. Terrorblade pretty much just outmeets the shit out of Mjollnir anyway, unless you're a really, really strong hero. And so, yeah, the no longer dealing bonus damage to illusions is probably a long-held era of a nerf, basically the heal on the throat of illusion heroes. So Maelstrom and Mjollnir being nerfed this way is a buff to heroes like PL, which we're actually starting to see some positive win rate and growth to the hero. So So I think we might see him come back, maybe, especially with the nerf to Blade Mail, which also didn't really kill Illusion Heroes all that much, but it definitely made the mid game difficulty for some of those heroes a bit tougher for offlane heroes. So basically, Blade Mail being nerfed means that maybe Axe and Legion Commander might go away, which then thus gives a little bit of a more comfortable lane for, let's say, PL, for example, right? Playing PL versus Legion Commander with overwhelming odds, which is brutal. And then for Axe, same thing, playing against Axe with Counter Helix, which is brutal as well. So let's see if if these changes really help Illusion Heroes make a comeback. So we talked about Axe already a little bit with the Blade Mail changes. Now Axe even more nerfed. The mana cost Berserker's Call has gone up. Culling Blade kill armor bonus has also gone down. Especially in the early game where it matters most. Your first level Culling Blade, especially your second level as well. I mean, the scale's all the same, but it really hurts during those early mid game periods because that's where a lot of your damage comes from. With basically both your attacks, both your battle hunger, but also when you want to be able to survive your attacks after taunting them with Berserker's Call, the mana cost increase may not seem that significant, but if you're ganking, 3, 4, 5 times, it really accumulates into something that matters. So big nerf for Axe. Probably won't see him go away really, but it is gonna definitely slow him down in terms of lack of mana, unless he gets the ideal enchantment for neutral items. But even that has been nerfed. So I just want to make a quick mention on Dazzle. The duration on Weave being nerfed is not really all that noticeable. However, the Shadow Wave cost from 75 to 90 is noticeable. If you're not familiar with Dazzle right now, Dazzle has really been buffed up in the Nothal Shield or whatever it's called. Before people were maxing out Poison Touch with Dazzle. If you haven't taken a look at the hero recently, he's really about maxing out Weave and your Shallow Grave, because both of those give you increased heal and lower cooldown when you pop Dazzle's new ultimate ability, which I'm going to pretend to know, but I'm actually going to just look it up, which is called Nothal Projection. So with the Nothal Projection, you don't already know the ultimate basically buffs all your other abilities. Poison Touch hexes, Shadow Grave heals upon expiration, and Shadow Wave has a shorter duration. So what you're seeing with current Dazzle builds is Nothal Boon, which gives you armor on Weave, if I remember. Converts overhealing into a barrier. And then you're seeing the Nothal Boom facet with probably one of the first items for Dazzle is Holy Locket. Holy Locket is back for Dazzle. That gives you a significant amount of mana, hence why Shadow Wave has been increased in mana cost to help kind of substantiate or bounce that extra mana that you get as Dazzle. When you go Arcane Boots and Holy Locket, you're just unbelievably flushed with mana. So that's the nerf for Shadow Wave, or at least my understanding of it. And definitely try out the more healing oriented side of Dazzle. Quick mention on Mirana, just really nice to see that Sacred Arrow maximum bonus damage increased from 150, 160, 170, 180 to straight up 180. So that one level you get in Mirana, Sacred Arrow, is now all the more valuable and more importantly deals a lot of damage quickly early on. So you can pair that hero up with, let's say, a Bane Nightmare into Sacred Arrow, which would be pretty nuts. Or a lot of other heroes like Underlord would also be with Pit of Malice would be interesting. So for Monkey King, changing of the guard, the initial cooldown from 0.5 to 1 second. Honestly, I don't really think that really matters all too much for Monkey King. It just kind of slows them down and being able to maneuver and even avoid being targeted. I think the Boundless Strike change is what really matters here, where the Aghanim Shard portion of Primal Spring's max power from 60 to 40% means that I think they're removing the ability to last hit or to wipe out creep waves with Boundless Strike when you get the Ag Shard. I think unless you get the Ag Shard with Primal Monkey King's talent plus 100 Primal Spring max damage, I think you actually cannot wipe out creep waves in a single shot until much later in the game. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of why Ag Shard damage has been decreased. On top of that, honestly, the Primal Spring max power damage from 60 to 40 also made the hero incredibly annoying to take damage from when getting ganked in the early mid game, especially if the guy rushed Shard after, let's say, Maelstrom. Okay, another nerf for Nature's Prophet, and honestly, if you played against this hero, you know why. Nature's Prophet was supposed to be a support, ended up being back to carry again, one of the best carries again. Even when he has what is supposed to be a support healing facet and ends up being Just a guy who can suck his own dick and rejuvenate and heal cancer from his own sperm. But anyway, please don't demonetize me. Soothing Saplings nerfed. Significant nerf from 50 to 25 at max level. Pretty brutal. And then the damage has also been decreased from 7135 to 265 to 250. Not that significant, but the amount of spam that Nature's Prophet was using with Sprout to kind of finish enemies off was super annoying. So no surprise here on the nerfs. Hopefully he goes back to support or just ends up dying. I don't really care. I'm not really sure why they buffed Spirit Breaker. Spirit Breaker is probably one of the best Pals 4s in 7.39c. And they just made him even easier. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes Pause 3 now because his base damage has been increased, so last thing's much easier. And his damage at level 1 has also been increased from 59.69 to 62 to 72. So basically, even your baseline of damage at level 1 is pretty good. So yeah, kind of concerning. We'll see how it goes. But Spirit Breaker, definitely a hero you should be playing right now. Okay, no surprise, Ursa somehow nerfed, but also buffed. I mean, the health as damage rescaled from 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 to now 1.25 means that his laning stage is still incredibly good, which is how really I associate Maul being, where the more health he had, not max health, just more health in general. So if you didn't take any damage, you were last hitting like a god. Basically, it's still very good. It's 1.25 instead of 1.2. Now, later on, it's obviously not as great in terms of damage. But honestly, I don't know if it's negligible, to be honest. I'm not that good with the numbers. Math pretty much sucks for me. But I definitely did not think about Maul being as the hindrance or the reason why I was able to kill enemies so quickly. You know, evidently, I think it was more about Empower and Fury Swipes and the ability to stack that up and then be able to bash people. Plus, you had Battle Fury fairly early on, so you would deal a ton of damage and just wipe people out pretty quickly. Plus, honestly, it's pretty annoying. The Ursa Ag Shard gave you such survivability on top of the enrage you would naturally get from your ultimate, and then usually I would go Ag Scepter anyway. So all that said, yeah, Ursa, probably the top 2 reasons Ursa is very strong is that his laning stage is incredibly easy, both to secure kills next to support heroes like Shadow Shaman and Lion being popular, to help kind of keep the enemies in place so that Ursa can stack up Fury Swipes damage and harass comfortably with that. And then the second reason is that Ursa is just a free damaging hero that honestly can't be stopped. Thanks to, again, the Ag Shard, which has been nerfed from 1.4 to 1.3 seconds, as well as the enrage you would get that you can do while being stunned with Ag Scepter. So, yeah, still a very good hero. Would definitely recommend him. He was already top 2 anyway. Okay, final change. Vengeful Spirit was a really good Pause 3, and she's still good as a Pause 3. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking here, but base damage increased by 2, so laning stage is easier. Damage at level 1 increased also. So your laning stage at Vengeful Spirit is all the more easier to last hit, even though it was already pretty easy. As long as you don't get harassed that much, which is somehow hard for a lot of players, including me. And however, your agility gain from 3.2 to 3 does hurt evidently come mid game to late game, especially with your Vengeance Sword. Obviously, it doesn't give you that much bonus as it does before. So they're trying to really curb out Vengeful Spirit's viability towards the late game, while giving her a much early to mid game, so she can have a lot more of an elongated timing when she reaches that late game itemization. So hopefully Vengeful Spirit doesn't end up dominating your game super late game, but ends up just being the hero it was meant to be, which is a very good early mid game hero after Ag Scepter. Otherwise, she can't carry the game as much as she could before later parts, 40 minutes plus. So definitely a nerf for the hero long term, but in terms of the harder parts where it was more difficult to, let's say, last hit and survive the lane or secure last hits as an offlaner, hopefully she still excels at that. All right, that's it for this patch. Definitely like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the stream. I'm already late for it. Enjoy your crumbs for what it is, and I'll see you guys next time.